All right, in today's video and today's session, I want to talk about the benefits of drinking versus the benefits of not drinking. And then I want to cover just two of the I suppose the benefits for myself after so long of not drinking now. And when I look back, what are the biggest benefits that I see? You know, when you first cross that line, when you first got your first few weeks, a few months into the journey, you think about things on a very different level. So once I talk about that, the benefits of drinking, and the final thing that I want to talk about is, so I'm going to talk about memory as one of the benefits for me as a long-term thing, how alcohol affects you short-term and long-term, and the benefits of not drinking in terms of your memory. And then I want to talk about being a better dad, being a better parent, and how that has really it was one of the reasons why I stopped drinking alcohol in the first place, but just how that has evolved and why it's such a huge benefit for me in my life, why it's played such a huge part, motivation. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to the channel. It's really it helps us out a lot, and we're trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen when we get there, but it'd be nice to get there. If you want to ask a question while we're live, then you have to click on that join button down below, and yeah, you can ask away. There's other benefits as well. You can see after you click that live button or click the join button. So the benefits of drinking versus the benefits of non-drinking, of not drinking. You know, a lot of people say, well, there's no benefits to drinking, but we wouldn't drink. We wouldn't drink for so long if there wasn't benefits to it. The point is to see those benefits for what they are, just perceptions. And once you start to dig into the perceptions and you start to dig around in the motivations of why you're doing it, we start drinking because there's a whole cultural pressure. It's a normality of drinking. By the time we get to 18 years of age, it's almost a foregone conclusion that as soon as you get to 18 or 21 or 23, depending on where you are in the world, that you're gonna step across and go into a bar and get your first drinks. It's like a rite of passage almost, So when you're young, you drink because you don't want to lose face, because you think it's cool, because you're experimenting, and then eventually it becomes a tool in your life. You're using it as a tool for something, as a shortcut. For me, it was shyness. I used it as a shortcut for shyness. Going into bars, I felt anxious, tension. I felt uptight about myself, and it helped me to relax. And I think a lot of people use it for that same reason, to help them to get away from that inhibited part of themselves. But there's a reason why some inhibitions are there, especially from a cultural perspective. There's a lot of problems with it if you go out into the world and you can see it yourself. Look back at your own youth and see where that inhibitions got you. And the problem is that it's an instant gratification mindset. It's very short term, and you're always going to be shortcutting your own ability to deal with life. When you're dealing with yourself, when you're dealing with shyness or anxiety or tension or uptightedness or being inhibited through alcohol, you get into that true dependency. So you need alcohol to get back into that state, because you're not learning how to do it without alcohol. Or it could be any drug. It's not just the alcohol. I'm not talking about that. It's dependence as a crutch. So you're dependent on something outside of yourself to change an internal feeling. And that's a big problem. That's where the proper dependence comes from. And, people talk about it from the perspective of dependence on something within the alcohol. And maybe there's something to that, a biological dependence. But most of the dependence is psychological, that you cannot put yourself, you get so used to being in social situations with alcohol that you can't do it without, or you feel like there's something missing. And that's the problem. And eventually you get to that stage where you can't relax without alcohol. There's a problem with relaxing without alcohol. So one of the perceived benefits for me was, I think, one of the perceived benefits that happens, one of the perceived things that happens when when you're drinking is that you lose the ability to do without the crutch. You can't celebrate without alcohol. You can't socialize. You can't relax. And another part of this is that you get tolerance. There's a there's a certain physical tolerance with the alcohol, and that physical tolerance comes with the damage. The more you drink, the more you can tolerate, and the more you can tolerate, the more you can drink. But it doesn't stop the damage. You're still going to get damaged. Each unit of alcohol is still going to damage you just as much. The tolerance doesn't stop that. So, and another problem is that the world shrinks. Your perception shrinks. Everything starts to become, starts to revolve around alcohol. And I can't name one part of my life that was better without alcohol. Anything. I remember listening to Billy Connolly a couple of years ago. The old Billy Connolly, who was off alcohol for maybe 25, 30 years. And he said the one thing that he missed was the going into a bar and having the company of other men and just talking about crap. And I suppose if, there's a bit of truth in that, but, that's certain things that I miss about my childhood that I can never go back to. There's certain things that I miss about every part of my life that I can never go back to because they're in the past. And that's the only, if there was one thing that I missed about drinking, it would be that aspect of things. And that's nothing to do with the alcohol. That's just the way the society is laid out. I mean, if men did this in coffee shops, then that's what we will be doing, and I believe that was something that they did in the past. So the habit is always going to take from you. It's not going to give. It never gives from you. It takes your consciousness in the moment. It takes your consciousness in the long term because it gradually dumbifies, stupefies your brain. It takes away your health. It's a gradual process. As you age, you get a little bit more sensitive to outside toxins. It's just part of the aging process. But also, as you age, the damage that you've done from the alcohol, the damage that you experience through that's also going to cause your organs not to work as well as they should be, even at that age. So that causes you problems as well. Memories, I'll talk about that in a while. That's what alcohol takes a lot of your memories, both in the short term and long term. Friends, I've lost loads of friends from alcohol just because I wanted, the more I drank, the more I wanted my friends to drink. I wasn't interested in friends that didn't, it's like anything else. You're not really interested in friends that don't share the same share the same interests as you. And when your interests contract because of alcohol, then your friends are going to contract as well. Experiences in life, it's one of those things where you're not putting yourself out. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. For me, one of the things was decompression. So you do a stressful job and you finish up the day in a bar because you want to decompress, and you're telling yourself more of this than anything else. But alcohol is part of the compression problem. It's part of what gives you the stress in the first place, gives you the anxiety, and gives you all those different things. Like I said, if you started out by going into a bar because or drinking because you wanted to go into a bar and not feel shy, then you don't ever learn how to become shy, or what you should, you don't get to that level where you should be without the alcohol, that you would have been without the alcohol. So there's a lot of different problems with this. Before I go on to the next topic, subscribe if you haven't already, and join if you want to ask a question. I'm Kevin O'Hara for habitsv2.com. We help people to stop drinking alcohol and to get to that best possible version of themselves. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you again soon. Onwards and upwards.